Hey, what's up, everybody? Jay Pounds here. We got another weekly rebuild article for you. This week, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the top 10 players rebuilding owners should stash. And by stash, I don't mean buy. Yes, some of these players you might have to trade for because they're owned in your league, but they're not going to cost much. Next week, I will do the top 10 players rebuilding owners should buy. And by buy, I mean, probably a second round pick or higher, if not a first round pick or higher. I'll probably do second round pick value roughly. Again, nothing's an exact science here. We all value these players a little bit differently. There will be a couple players that you guys might feel should be in next week's article versus this week's, but I'll kind of break down the reasoning why on those. I want to touch on last week's video real fast. It seemed to be a pretty popular video. People at least seem to like it. It got a lot of views. I think it's near 400 views now. And that got me thinking that I would like to do some type of giveaway. So this week, what I'd like to do is a giveaway for a $20 Amazon gift card. It'll be a random winner. The only requirements are the video has to get to 500 views with no time frame, 40 likes, and you have to comment to be entered into the giveaway. So I would imagine 40 comments at least as well. If you can do that, I'll have the guys at Dynasty Owner pick a random winner out of that, and I'll send you the code for a $20 Amazon gift card through email or something. We'll figure that out after the winner's selected. But it's just something I kind of want to do to thank you guys for showing a lot of support for Dynasty Owner over the last year or so, 9 months or so that I've been with them. You guys are awesome, and I'm going to start can't get my tongue. I'm going to start a series on orphan teams. And basically, well, I shouldn't say orphan teams, on a orphan team that I want to build with you guys together. And what I mean by that is I'm going to get this orphan team once the guys at Dynasty Owner are able to get the multiple teams up and running. I'm going to receive an orphan team, and we're going to tear it down together. And I'm not going to make any moves. The first article will be the roster of the team, and then from there, I'm going to take your guys' input, and we're going to build the team together. And I'm going to do maybe 1-2 articles a month on it, and just detail how the team's going, what trades I've made, if I, how I engaged with other users. Just all sorts of things. Are there players we want to build around? Things of that nature. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop rambling here, but that's what's coming up in the future. Covered the giveaway, so let's get into the top 10. Number 1, we have Taylor Heinicke, 27 years old. He's a free agent. 2020 stats: 12 of 19, 137 yards and a touchdown. He was brought in for Dwayne Haskins. He was playing like poo-poo, and they brought Heinicke in, and he didn't look bad. I believe they lost that game still, but they almost came back and won it, and that was basically on the back of Heinicke. And then he had a 1 week to prepare for a great defense in the playoffs. The Buccaneers had a heck of a stretch on defense, and Heinicke ate him up. I believe he had something like 306 yards passing and a touchdown as well. I mean, he did have an interception, but I mean, that defense made Patrick Mahomes look average, and Heinicke was just able to tear him up. Again, he's a free agent, so it's not a guarantee that he's going to go back to Washington, but all rumors that I've read have all signs point to him going back to Washington. They'll probably draft somebody, but I believe he's going to get a fair shot next season at the starting job if he resigns with Washington. If he doesn't resign with Washington, he's not really all that intriguing, but he's cheap. This is kind of one of the players I figured people would consider a buy instead of a stash, but I was able to get him for $1 million Dynasty dollars. Placed a bid on him, got him easily, and I just don't think you're going to have to give up anything to get this guy. And if you can get a starting quarterback and dynasty owner with a salary that he's going to be getting, it's not going to be much. You do it every time, even if you're rebuilding. He'll probably be the quarterback for at least 2 years. And if anything, you use him as a trade chip. So right now he's a stash and just see what happens. The second guy we have here, Van Jefferson, 24 years old, 3 years, 1.5 million. We'll round the contracts off again. It's just a little bit easier on the tongue. 24 years old, 3 years left, 1.5 million. His 2020 stats: 19 catches, 220 yards, and a touchdown. This is a big time stash here for me, with Stafford going into Los Angeles and Goff going to Detroit. It really I'm interested to see how the Rams offense looks this coming season. McVay has been limited a bit by Goff, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong there this year. But I think Goff's a below average quarterback, and McVay really hit a lot of his flaws. But like I said, we'll find out this year. As far as Van Jefferson goes, you got Cooper Kupp. His contract expired. Josh Reynolds likely going to leave town. I feel like they're going to bring Kupp back, whether it be re-signed or franchise tagged. But he's up and down. Didn't finish strong last year, so I just feel Van Jefferson, whether it be in 2021, 2022, excuse me, or 2023, he's worth a stash. You can get him cheap, probably. I'd say a third round pick at most is all anybody would charge you for him. But if you can get your hands on Van Jefferson, he's definitely worth it. I think that's all I got on Jefferson. Let's go ahead and move on to the next guy here. Number 3, we got Quintez Cephus. He's one of my favorite sleeper rookies, and he's on a 3-year, $735,000 deal. Very cheap. He was able to put up 20 catches, 349 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He wasn't a high draft pick. He wasn't a pretty draft pick. But it just seems like he's going to be one of those guys that get it done consistently for you. He's never going to be your wide receiver 1 or a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. But he'll probably be a solid flex option most of his career. And it'll just probably be consistent is the best I can think of. If he can find somewhat decent quarterback play, I feel he could be a solid contributor to fantasy rosters, especially in Dynasty owner where you have the bench points. Again, this just makes you have to have deeper rosters, and these are the types of players that could be consistent bench players that are that have breakout weeks for you and end up winning you a week by a point or two when you need them to. When it really comes down to it, and you're competing for playoff spots and championships and things like that, and every point really, really matters. That's the time when Quintez Cephus will step in there for you. And every time I hear the guy's name, it just takes me back to the quote I heard when Jeff Okudah was asked who the best wide receiver he's ever tried to cover was, and he went to Quintez Cephus. And at that time, Jeff Okudah was an All-American. It's kind of funny they ended up getting drafted by the same team, but nonetheless, that's who he answered, and that's kind of stuck with me. And as you see by those numbers, they're not high-profile numbers or anything like that, but from a later round pick that's seen more coverage than he probably should have with Galladay being out most of the year, I don't think it's a bad stash there, and that's why I have him up at number 3. Let's move on to number 4 here. We have Tyron Johnson. He's 22 years old, 3 years, $737,000. His 2020 stats: 12 catches, 169 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tyron Johnson is a phenomenal talent, and I don't want to take anything away from him. If he was in a different situation, he may even be number 1 on this list. But that being said, he's in Tampa. They got Antonio Brown. They got Gronk. They got Godwin. They got Evans. Cameron Brate's there. Fournette, Jones. Now, they have some cap space, but they have a lot of people that are a lot of quality players that are free agents, including on the defensive side. Fournette's a free agent. Godwin's a free agent. I believe Antonio Brown's a free agent. So if they're not able to sign all three of them, maybe that opens up a little bit of playing time for Tyler Johnson. But all in all, I don't really see him being all that productive until maybe 2022, 2023. But if maybe, let's say, Godwin gets franchise tagged this year, Antonio Brown comes back for a year to make another run at a Super Bowl, and then Godwin leaves, Antonio Brown retires, and then you start looking at an aging Mike Evans and Tyler Johnson really being a key in that offense. But again, that's a couple years out yet. That's why he's on the stash play. If you go back and look throughout the season, most of these 12 catches that Tyler Johnson had, it seemed like was either a highlight reel catch or an important play during the game. Tom Brady really, really trusted the kid in big moments. Not every big moment, obviously, but specific big moments throughout the year. Tom Brady put the ball in Tyler Johnson's hands, and he delivered almost every time. So that just, when you got somebody like Tom Brady trusting you in those kinds of situations, it's just a player I can believe in, I guess. So I have Tyler Johnson at number 4, and I think it's somebody you guys should stash. At number 5, we got Donavon Peoples-Jones, 22 years old, 3 years, 870,000. 2020 stats: 14 catches, 304 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This is a guy that flashed big play potential. Baker Mayfield really, really seemed to like him. But it worries me, he's got Njoku and Hooper in front of him. They're a run-first team. Baker only threw for 3,500 yards this year. Yeah, he had a better year than we've seen out of him in the Kitchens era. But it was only 3,500 yards, for somebody like a Peoples-Jones with Beckham and Landry there and Higgins and those guys. For him to produce, it's going to take a monster year from Baker for him to even be a reliable fantasy asset. But Higgins is a free agent this year. There's been a lot of talk about Beckham going, and Njoku's not very happy. So there's a realistic possibility that Peoples-Jones becomes dependent on in this Cleveland offense. Probably not next year, but the year after, more than likely. And you'll see one of his teammates later here in this that I feel, the year after that, he would really start stepping up as well. But the Browns seem to have some young talented pass catchers on their roster, and it should pay dividends for fantasy owners as long as Baker keeps trending in the right direction, or at least the Cleveland Browns continue to trend in the right direction. At number 6 here, we have Tyron Johnson from the Los Angeles Chargers. He's 25 years old. He's a free agent this season. His 2020 stats are 20 catches, 398 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This is somebody Herbert really started trusting a lot down the stretch. He didn't do a whole lot in the beginning of the year. He had a lot of these one-catch games that you've seen. But down the stretch, especially when Keenan Allen was banged up a little bit, it really was kind of Tyron Johnson that took over a little bit. And with the Chargers having a huge hole at the number 2 wideout spot that Mike Williams was supposed to fill a long time ago, he just never did. And, like I said, that left them with a huge hole at number 2. And maybe Tyron Johnson's the guy to fill that. Obviously he needs to be re-signed first, and it's a huge blow to him if he doesn't go back to the Chargers. He was undrafted in 2019 and never even seen the field with Houston. He did sign with Houston after being undrafted, but he never seen the field with them. He really got a chance this year, shined quite a bit. But I really think to carry that momentum, he needs to re-sign with the Chargers, and hopefully he does for his sake and for our sake. But until then, I'd stash him. He's going to be a very cheap buy, if not $1 million dynasty dollars, if he's available in your league. So, yeah, go out and get him. At number 7, we have Salvon Ahmed, 22 years old, free agent. 2020 stats: 75 carries, 319 yards, and 3 TDs. This is kind of a riskier stash. I really feel like if the Dolphins believed in him, they wouldn't be talking about going and drafting Najee Harris or looking at Aaron Jones or going those avenues. They would just run it back with Myles Gaskins and Ahmed. but they haven't. I don't think they believe in his durability. He got banged up in just I believe it was 3 games, and that really raised some red flags. So I think what they're wanting him to do is take kind of a step back, come in here and there when needed, get his body ready for a workload, and then by the time he's ready, here in a couple years, maybe he'll find a feature role somewhere. And again, that's a long shot, but it's worth a shot. There's another running back on the list I maybe should have put ahead of Ahmed, but I just really like Ahmed as a talent and believe if he gets a shot, he can really shine if he could stay healthy. He is able to catch the ball out of the backfield. He looked pretty fluent doing that, and I think if he, like I said, if he gets a shot, he could shine. At number 8, we have Collin Johnson, 23 years old, 3 years, 900,000. 2020 stats, 18 catches, 272 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Collin Johnson played very well when Mike Glennon played. When Mike Glennon didn't play, Collin Johnson didn't play very well. It's kind of interesting how that works out in the NFL. You know, when you practice together, you seem to play well together. So I can kind of chalk some of the Johnson's productions up to that, but he was still able to produce on an NFL field. And with a new coaching regime coming in with Urban Meyer and now Trevor Lawrence more than likely going to be the number 1 pick, you know, this offense could really open up, and Collin Johnson could get a shot if they don't bring in a free agent. So right now he's somebody that you should stash while he's very, very cheap. Like I said, this is another guy you could probably get on your free agent auction right now. $1 million dynasty dollars, and I highly doubt anybody's going to try to outbid you on him. But he's definitely worth a stash if you're rebuilding, you know, here in a couple of years as he matures and gets a little bit older, and maybe we see that third or fourth breakout year from him. You know, it's just something that Collin Johnson's capable of doing, and he showed that in his breakout games last year. I remember it was a game against the Browns, and I played some DFS, and if I'd have played Collin Johnson, I'd have hit huge. Instead, I played Keelan Cole, and I still kick myself in the butt about it sometimes. But that's how football goes, and that's why Collin Johnson's a stash, not just that game, but overall what he did. You know, I just like the potential outlook for him. At number 9, we have Harrison Bryant, 22 years old, 3 years, $1 million. 2020 stats, 24 catches, 238 yards, and 3 touchdowns. As I told you a few minutes ago, you'd see Donavon Peoples-Jones' teammate later in this article. Well, here he is. Bryant looked phenomenal as a rookie tight end this season. You know, 238 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's typically what we expect out of like a Noah Fant and things like that. So that really speaks volumes to what Harrison Bryant's capable of doing in the near future. You know, not 2021, but when, like I said, when Njoku's out or Hooper or whatever happens there, who knows? Maybe Harrison Bryant becomes the number 1 tight end in 2 years there. It's just hard telling, but once he gets his opportunity, I believe this kid can shine, especially as he matures and gets his body ready for the blocking and everything that comes with the position of tight end. And last but not least here, let's get into number 10. We have Shawn Vaughn, 23 years old, 3 years, $1.1 million left on his deal. 2020 stats, 26 carries, 109 yards, 3 catches, 34 yards, and a touchdown. Shawn Vaughn's rookie season was very disappointing, very, very disappointing. Nobody's seen the team signing Fournette. Nobody's seen Fournette being a free agent and being on waivers, but it happened. And Shawn Vaughn kind of had a lost rookie year because of that, and as well as an improved Ronald Jones. But as I mentioned earlier with Tyler Johnson, the Buccaneers are in trouble with what they have cap-wise and who they have to re-sign, and they're going to have to pick and choose here. And if they don't pick right, it could cost them, you know. But they spent significant draft capital in Shawn Vaughn, so I kind of see them giving him a chance this season, and unless they bring Fournette back and have Ronald Jones as well, then maybe a trade is in play there. But I see him giving Shawn Vaughn a chance at some point in time in the 2021 season, whether it be a shared role like you've seen this year with him and Fournette. but he's definitely worth a stash, and he's going to get a shot at some point. So get him now while you can get him for a third instead of what you were paying for him last year. I remember he was in redraft leagues. He was getting drafted in the 10th, 11th round at times, and it was just wild to me with Ronald Jones being there. I've never been a full blown Rojo truther, but the guy can ball, man. He runs people over. He's doesn't have great hands, but he can play. So it's not like Keyshawn Vaughn's going to come in and clearly beat out Ronald Jones or anything, but once the opportunity arises, that's why you stash him. Like I said, you're rebuilding. This isn't for tomorrow. This is for a couple of years out. So just keep that in mind when you're picking these players up. Pick them up with intentions of them not playing at all for you this season, and just stash them and keep them. They're all cheap. None of these guys are expensive. Heineke may get somewhat pricey. He's not going to be a $20 million player by any means, but he might be $5-6 million. It's hard telling what they're going to give that guy. But that's all I really got for you this week. Like I said, the giveaway $20 Amazon card, 500 likes, 500 views, 40 likes, 40 comments. Like I said, if you don't comment, I don't think you can be entered into the contest. So make sure you comment. If you want, comment your Twitter name and I'll follow you. Maybe that'll get us a little more interactive here for this orphan team stuff. Like I said, that's my main goal here. I want to get as interactive as possible so we can really rebuild this orphan team together. And if it sounds like something you'd enjoy, I'm looking forward to doing it as well. So I hope you guys are too. All that said, good luck on your 2021 chase for the ring. Good luck on your off seasons, and we'll see you guys next week.